Hello, students. This is Faisal here, and today is midterm day, and I just wanted to talk about those first. So, midterms were emailed to your TDSB student account this morning. I scheduled them to go out at 6 a.m., so check them out, right? You should have them in your student account. I sent them all out as attachments. Took a while to do it, I'll be honest, but hopefully you've all got them, and let me know if there are any problems. So first of all, let's look at what the midterms look like. So I sent you guys a PDF, and it's gonna have something that looks like this thing in it, right? The name of the student was removed from here, but this is what the thing looks like. So it has a list of all the assignments, right? The two first marks are the reflection or paragraph assignment. The next four entries are your short story questions, right? Each out of 5. You'll notice that it only gives the mark in a percentage, but whatever it is, right? So for instance, this person got 4.5 out of 5 for that, right? That's why it's a 90, right? This column here, right, mark percent, are your marks, right, for each of the things. Oh, and by the way, this one at the top right is whatever your midterm mark is, right? So yours will be at the top right here, and these are your individual marks, which are percentages, right? So it's not going to say out of 10, it'll just give you the percentage grade that you got. These other numbers, well, you don't have to worry about them too much, but basically, the course is divided into strands. There's the reading side, there's the media strand, there's the writing strand, and there's the oral strand. Right now, the paragraphs of the week, right, that first assignment, are worth quite a bit, right? And the reason for that is that we haven't done the essay yet. So when we do the essay, the paragraphs of the week are going to be worth a lot less, right? So that's sort of going to supersede that grade. So chances are, if your grade isn't where you want it to be, it might be because you didn't do too well on the paragraphs of the week. So your opportunity to go up is going to be with the essay that I have assigned. Okay, so that's what's going on with the marks themselves. And then there's some graphs there if you're interested in that, right? The dotted line is the class average, and then the black line is where you guys are. So, for some of the assignments, you might be over the class average. For some, you might be under, but that's the way it works. You'll notice the oral communication mark is in there. I posted all of your oral communication marks on the website yesterday, so you should already have those. So that's what your midterm mark looks like, right? So again, don't class average percent is what the class average was for each of these assignments, right? So what everyone did together. And this plus or minus class average thing is just telling you if you are over the class average or if you are under. Again, the thing that's important, these are your individual marks for each of the assignments, and this thing up here is your that's your midterm mark. All right, so that's the way it works. So let's go through some of the most frequently asked questions for midterms before we move on here. First question, why is my mark so low? Right, I always get that question. People ask me, look, go look at the comments I've left you on your work, right? Look at what I said about your paragraphs, look at what I said about your short answers, right? The midterm is calculated based on the marks I've given you in the class so far, so it shouldn't be a huge surprise, right? If you've been getting B's for the whole quad, then of course you're going to get B on the midterm. If you've gotten A's, then you're going to get an A, right? So it's based on that. That's why, right? So please don't think it's something personal, or it's because, oh, he gave me a low mark because he hates me, or even he gave me a high mark because he likes me. Neither of those are the case. I just give marks based on what you're doing in class. That's sort of my job. So, second thing, the marks on my paper are calculated wrong. So, first of all, no, they aren't. Their marks are assigned a weight value. Like right now, again, the paragraphs are worth a lot more than they will be in the long run, right? So please, if your plan is, I'm going to get out my calculator and I'm going to add everything together and then divide in order to find the average, that is not the case. right? Now, if you see a number that is wrong, tell me about that, right? So, for instance, if you got, 5 out of 5 on the czar question, but you look in the thing and I accidentally put 2 out of 5, I don't think I did that, but if you see something like that, let me know and I will fix it. Third question, how do you raise your mark? So the way to do that is you're going to do better on the assignments going forward than you have been doing. Look at the comments, figure out what you've been doing wrong, figure out things like commas and capitals and all of that stuff. Get it under control, and you will do better. I won't just raise your mark just because, and I'm going to say now before anyone asks, no, you cannot redo assignments, right? If I were to let you guys just start to redo your paragraphs, redo your short answers, or redo whatever, then look, I'm going to be marking your stuff forever until you get a 90, right? So I'm not going to open that door. You cannot redo assignments. Last question, why did I get 0 on one of my assignments? So the answer to that is you didn't hand it in before 6 p.m. on Thursday. I gave everyone 6 hours, right? I said 12 p.m., but I was actually accepting things right until 6. So if you didn't give me something before 6, that was the deadline. I had to give my midterms in. So, that had to be done. So I'm sorry, but you have missed that opportunity, so it's not included in your midterm. If there's a special circumstance that you want me to be informed of, you should let me know as soon as you can. Hello, cat. Make sure the cat gets in there. So, that is what's going on with that. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to make things quick today because, quite frankly, it's almost midnight and I'm kind of tired and I've been doing this midterm stuff all day. It make me jump through a lot of hoops on midterm days. So I'm just going to go through quickly some body paragraph info about essays before we go on. So yesterday I talked about the importance of making an outline, right? And also how to write an introduction paragraph, right? So that was what I did yesterday, right? But today I just want to talk about how to write a body paragraph. So first of all, one person today sent me a completed essay, which really did surprise me. So I'll take a look at that later. But if you guys want to send me an outline over the weekend, right, I would be happy to take a look at it. I might not respond until Sunday, but I would love to take a look at some outlines and see what you guys are doing. But once you've got your intro paragraph, right, hook, background, thesis, right, you're on to body paragraphs, right? And this is the part where it actually gets easy, right? Because these body paragraphs are the same as the other paragraphs you guys have already written for me about marijuana, about all of those other things, right? So it's still the same thing with topic sentence, supporting sentences, and a conclusion. So I've written an example here. I'm just going to quickly go through it. So first, I begin with my topic sentence. In the Sherlock Holmes mysteries, Watson being puzzled is meant to mirror the way the reader should be puzzled by the problems Sherlock is dealing with, right? So that is one of my main points, right? So let me just highlight that in green. I like highlighting things. So that's one of my main points. It connects to my thesis, right, which is saying Dr. Watson is in the story to represent the reader, right? So that's part of my thesis. And guess what? Because I've written an outline, I don't have to really think as I'm going through this, right? So let's see what I wrote here. So he is a bridge between the readers and Sherlock Holmes and thinks in the same way that the reader is supposed to be thinking. For example, in The Adventure of the Six Napoleons, Watson says of the culprit that a man who had read deeply about Napoleon might conceivably be capable of any fantastic outrage. And I put Doyle 4 there. This idea is completely wrong, but the way that Watson is speculating about who the criminal might be is meant to be similar to the way an ordinary person that is thinking about this problem might think. After all, it is only natural for a person to think that someone who is constantly smashing Napoleon statues probably really hates Napoleon. So, all of those are my supporting sentences, right? There are about 5 or 6 of them, I didn't count. But that's your supporting sentences. Now, I did two things in these supporting sentences that I want to quickly call your attention to. So first of all, this sentence here, right, is a quotation, right? For example, in the Adventure of the Six Napoleons, Watson says of the culprit that a man who blah, 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 blah. So that's a quotation, right? So let's just quickly talk about how to quote, right? Because that's important. So you need a couple of things. So first of all, make sure it fits within the sentence, right? So don't just throw a quote in, right? All of this stuff I have here, Watson says of the culprit that, right? And then a colon, right? That's I need that, right, in order to establish the quote, right? So I'll even make that number 1 here. You need to do that in order for the quote to fit within your essay, right? So if I were to just, make it like this, for example, and then quote a man who had read, no. I can't do that. I have to tell the reader, where's this from and who's talking, right? And what's he talking about, right? So you need to establish the quote, right? Make sure it says Watson says of the culprit, or Sherlock Holmes says of the criminal, or the emperor says of this guy, right? Make sure you talk about that. So, you do that, then you put the words from the story in quotation marks, right? These are these things here, right? Those are quotation marks. They have to be on either side. You'll notice, by the way I do it here, the period at the end of the sentence goes before the quotation mark, so you gotta put everything you quote in quotation marks, right? So that has to happen. Then, after that, you'll notice I put Doyle 4, right? And that's literally, oh wait, it's Doyle 2. Oops, my bad. How did I put Doyle 4? Doyle 2. Doyle is the last name of the author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and 2 is the page number. So for now, guys, when you quote, just do that. Just the page number and the author. I'm going to talk more about citation on Monday when I'm less tired, right? But for now, Doyle 2 is sufficient. So cite it is what I'm saying, right? So author and page number in brackets, right? That's what you do. Right, so that's step 3. And then step 4 is to analyze the quote, right? So don't just move on to your next idea. So what I do here is I say this idea is completely wrong, but the way Watson is speculating about the criminal, who the criminal might be, is similar to the way an ordinary person that is thinking about this problem might think, right? So guys, when you have a quote, let me just put that in blue. When you have a quote, you don't just say, here's the quote, you figure it out, reader, right? You have to let the reader know what they should think about it, right? You should be doing the thinking. As a reader, I'm not doing the thinking. Now, very quickly, one other thing. If you need to cut a quote down, use ... right? So, if you look at the original quote here, right, this is from the second page of the 3 students. You'll notice it's very long, right? There is the condition which the modern French psychologists have called the idea fixe, which may be trifling in character and accompanied by a complete sanity in every other way, blah, 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 right? So he talks a lot. But what you're able to do, right, as a writer, is you can chop quotes up, right, as long as you don't change the meaning. So let's see what I did here. A man who had deliberately read deeply about Napoleon, and then you see right there, ... What that means is I've cut something, right? So the way it reads originally is a man who had read deeply about Napoleon, or who had received some hereditary family injury through the Great War, might conceivably form such an idea fixe, and under its influence be capable of any fantastic outrage, right? So what I did is I cut all of this out because I didn't want it to be too long, and I just replace it with these ... right? You put, those are called ellipses, by the way, right? So if you have a quote and it's too long, right? If your quote is like a half a page or something, don't put the whole quote in, right? Just quote what you need to quote, right? So that's my basic rules for quoting. All right. So when you quote in your essay, that's how you do it, right? And I'll talk more about citation on Monday. That'll be the topic of the day then. Anyway, the last thing you should do, of course, is make a concluding sentence, because you still need to do that in essays too. But other than that, it is just like that, right? So the one new thing you might need to do in your essays here is quote, but you don't have to, by the way. I'm not looking, oh, there has to be 5 quotes or something in your essay. No, you have as many quotes as you want. But quoting is a good thing, and you should do it, right? And just remember my 5 rules for that. Establish the quote, put the words for the story in quotation marks, cite it, analyze the quote, and use ... in order to cut it down. So, I'm really tired, so I'm going to leave it there for today. I will talk more about citation and everything on Monday. So your midterms are in your email inbox, and I hope that you guys are pleased with the way things are going. And even if you're not, things can go up. Remember, this essay is going to weigh against your paragraph assignment quite a bit. So hopefully things shall improve for us all. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave it there for today, and I thank you all for listening, and I will see you again next week.